If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, this offseason has been unlike anything we've seen in a long time. After missing the playoffs last season, the Leafs didn't just make one or two changes and hope for the best. They completely changed the identity of this team. New players came in through trades, free agency, and the draft, and Toronto addressed basically every area that needed fixing. Goaltending, defense, secondary scoring, depth, physicality, and even the future of the franchise. So today we're going to go through every major addition the Leafs made this offseason, what each player brings to the team, and how they make Toronto better.
Kawhi up top. Looks at the clock, turns the corner for the win! The goal man! Batista on the drive, deep left field, no doubt about it! Over center, here's Marner, and Matthews!
Scores! Welcome back to Everyday Toronto, your ultimate source for your Leafs, Raptors, and Jays news found all in one place. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more videos like this, breaking down news, rumors, and potential trade ideas for your favorite Toronto teams. Let's start with arguably the biggest name Toronto added this offseason, Sergei Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky comes to Toronto after spending the previous 6 seasons with the Florida Panthers, where he won 2 Stanley Cups and established himself as one of the most accomplished goaltenders of his generation. And let's be honest, goaltending was one of the biggest question marks surrounding the Leafs. Toronto needed someone who could give them legitimate veteran stability in the crease, and that's exactly what Bobrovsky is supposed to provide. He's a proven starter, he's played in huge playoff games, and he's won at the highest level. Now, there is a concern. Bobrovsky is coming off a rough regular season by his standards, posting an .877 save percentage over 52 games in the 2025-26 season. But the Leafs aren't necessarily betting on what he was last season. They're betting on a goalie who has a career .912 save percentage, 2 Vezina trophies, and 2 Stanley Cups. Bobrovsky has played in over 800 NHL games and has over 456 career wins. So Toronto is getting an extremely experienced goalie who has already been through almost everything the NHL can throw at him. So, overall, what does Bobrovsky add to the Leafs? He's a proven starting goaltender with lots of playoff experience and Stanley Cup experience. He provides veteran leadership and stability behind a completely revamped defense. Next up is the most interesting addition on the blue line, Darren Raddysh. Toronto acquired Raddysh from the Tampa Bay sign-and-trade, giving up a 5th-round pick and signing him to an 8-year contract. And this is where things get really interesting. Raddysh just had an absolutely massive breakout season. He scored 22 goals and 70 points in 73 games. That's a career high in basically every offensive category. He also finished with a +21 rating, 10 power play goals, and 26 power play points. So the Leafs aren't just getting another defenseman. They're getting a right-shot defenseman who can move the puck, run a power play, create offense, and play significant minutes. And that's something Toronto's needed desperately for some time. The Leafs had a major need for some more offense from the back end, and Raddysh could immediately become their most dangerous offensive defenseman we've seen in Toronto in some time. There is some concern though, as he has only had 73 points in his first 176 NHL games before exploding for 70 in just 73 games last season. So what does Raddysh add to this team? He's a right-handed shot with the ability to add a lot of offensive production from the back end. He has a wicked slap shot which opens up the power play for Toronto's other stars, and he plays top 4 minutes. Now, let's talk about Nick Paul. Paul was acquired from the Tampa Bay Lightning and gives Toronto something they've been missing for a long time: size and versatility throughout the lineup. Paul is a 6'4" and around 230-pound winger who can also play center. He's not coming here to score 70 points. That's not his job. His job is to make Toronto harder to play against. He can kill penalties, play in the bottom 6, take important defensive zone shifts, provide size, and win battles along the boards. And there's also something else that makes him particularly interesting for Toronto: playoff experience. Paul was a part of Tampa Bay's championship team and has played meaningful playoff hockey. That's valuable for a Leafs team that has constantly been criticized for lacking enough players who can handle playoff-style hockey. His 2025-26 regular season was limited to just 51 games, where he scored 15 points. So Toronto will be hoping for a healthier season and a return to a player who has produced more offensively in his previous years. Paul is also a Mississauga native, so Toronto is bringing another GTA-born player home. So like we mentioned before, he adds size, versatility, penalty killing, defensive responsibility, playoff experience, and physicality. Next up is Jack Roslovic. This is one of the more underrated additions of the offseason. Roslovic gives Toronto something they desperately need: secondary offense. He's a versatile forward who can play center or wing, and last season with Edmonton, he scored 20 goals and 32 points in 62 games. That 20-goal season is particularly interesting because Toronto needs more players capable of scoring without everything having to run through Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and the other top players. If Roslovic can give Toronto 15 to 20 goals while playing in the middle 6, that's a huge win. He's also a player who can move up the lineup if injuries happen, and that's important over the new 84-game season. Here's what to expect Roslovic to bring to the Maple Leafs this season: secondary scoring, center and wing versatility, speed, transition offense, and middle 6 depth. Then we have Colton Sissons. This is the type of player that might not get you excited for the signing on July 1st, but could come really important during a playoff run. Sissons is a veteran center who has spent most of his career playing a defensive role. He's responsible, he's physical, he can take faceoffs, he can kill penalties, and he's the type of player you can trust when you need a defensive zone draw late in the game. He had 11 points in 66 games with Vegas last season, so don't expect him to suddenly become a 50-point player. That's not what Toronto signed him for. The Leafs are building a deeper team where their bottom 6 players can be trusted, and Sissons fits that perfectly. Another player who fits that same philosophy is Teddy Blueger. Blueger is a definition of a defensive-minded center. Like Sissons, he isn't coming to Toronto to score 50 points. He's coming to win defensive zone draws, kill penalties, block shots, provide energy, and make life miserable for opposing teams. And here's something interesting. Blueger actually scored 17 points in just 35 games last year. So while he's primarily a defensive player, there is some offensive upside if he stays healthy. And the Leafs now have a lot more flexibility down the middle. Instead of having to rely heavily on their top centers, they can spread responsibility throughout the lineup. Now we get to one of the Leafs' biggest additions in terms of pure physicality, Brandon Duhaime. If you've watched Toronto last season and thought, this team needs to be harder to play against, this is exactly the type of player you were asking for. Duhaime is 6'2", around 210 pounds. He plays an aggressive physical style. Last season with Washington, he recorded 159 hits and 78 penalty minutes. He only had 9 points, but that's not why he's here. He's here to finish checks, create energy, protect teammates, win battles, and give Toronto someone who can bring a little nastiness to the bottom of the lineup. Now let's talk about one of their younger additions, Emil Andrae. Andrae is a 24-year-old left-shot defenseman who came over from Philadelphia on the Joseph Woll trade. He isn't going to be expected to carry the blue line immediately. Instead, Toronto is hoping he develops into a reliable two-way defenseman who can move the puck and eventually play bigger minutes. In 61 games last season, he had 13 points and finished with a plus-minus of 15. That's encouraging because Toronto doesn't just need veterans. They need young guys who can grow with this team. Andrae also brings international experience from Sweden, including World Junior experience. Andrae captained Sweden at the 2022 World Junior Championship and led Swedish players in tournament scoring with 8 points, so there's legitimate pedigree here. Now, let's get to the one everyone's been waiting for, Gavin McKenna. The Toronto Maple Leafs selected Gavin McKenna first overall in the 2026 NHL Draft, and this isn't just another prospect. McKenna is one of the most highly regarded young players to come through the draft in years. He spent 2025-26 at Penn State and put up 51 points in 35 games as a freshman. He also set Penn State's single-season record for assists with 36 and became only the third player in program history to reach 50 points in a season. And before that, he dominated the WHL. In 133 games, McKenna had 244 points. And in 2024-25, he led the entire Canadian Hockey League with 129 points in 56 games, winning CHL Player of the Year. So what does he give to Toronto? Potentially another elite offensive weapon. And the best part is, Toronto doesn't necessarily have to rush him here. If he's ready for the NHL immediately, fantastic. If he's not and he needs some time, they can develop him properly. Either way, this is a massive addition to the future of the franchise. If he does start with the Leafs, here's what you can expect from him, although there may be some growing pain along the way. He has elite offensive upside, speed, playmaking, and future superstar potential. So when you look at everything the Leafs did this offseason, there's one thing that really stands out. They added different types of players. Bobrovsky gives them veteran goaltending. Raddysh gives them offense from the blue line. Andrae gives them youth and upside on defense. Paul gives them size and playoff experience. Roslovic gives them secondary scoring. Sissons and Blueger give them depth down the middle. Duhaime gives them physicality. And Gavin McKenna gives them potentially the biggest piece of all, an elite young talent who can become a star in Toronto. After a season where the Leafs missed the playoffs, this wasn't about making one blockbuster move. It was about changing the entire identity of the roster. And now the question is, did John Chayka do enough to turn the Leafs back into a Stanley Cup contender? Let me know down below what you think. Who was Toronto's best addition, and which one of these players are you most excited to watch? That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and go Leafs go.